Sometimes the real resignation happens in private, long before the letter, the meeting, or the plan. This is a quiet truth, a sentence that you can hold in your hands. It speaks to an ending that asks for no witnesses. It is the moment when a decision settles deep within you, a silent turning of a page that only you can feel. This is not about a dramatic exit or a grand announcement. It is about a subtle shift in your inner landscape, a quiet conclusion that arrives without fanfare, often in the most ordinary of moments, like staring out a window or washing a coffee cup. It is a finality that takes root in your spirit before it ever touches your calendar or your to-do list. The end of a job often comes not as a loud crash, but as a slow and quiet unwinding. Imagine a tightly wound ball of yarn. One day the tension eases. The threads are no longer held so tightly. This is what the private resignation feels like. It is a gradual loosening of the ties that bind you. The urgency you once felt begins to fade. The problems that once consumed you now seem distant. You are still part of the machine, but you are no longer fueling it with your own personal fire. This process is subtle, almost invisible to the outside world. You are observing the daily drama as if watching a play you are no longer a part of. After the private resignation, your daily motions can feel like a thin, delicate shell. You move through your workday as if you are wearing invisible gloves, touching everything with care but without true connection. You perform your duties with a practiced professionalism. You meet your deadlines, you craft your emails, you nod in all the right places during meetings. Yet there is an undeniable distance. Rituals that once held meaning now feel strangely flat, like echoes from a room you have already left. Your eyes scan the room differently, observing rather than absorbing. Your coffee cools faster than it used to, untouched for longer stretches. You listen less for praise and are less wounded by criticism. The inner voice accepts the ending and waits for the rest of you to catch up. Long before your mind forms the words, "I need to leave," your body has been speaking this truth. It speaks in a language that is subtle and constant, a language of sensation rather than words, a familiar tightening in your stomach as you pull in each morning, a heaviness in your shoulders that stretching cannot relieve, a shallow breath when someone enters the room, holding your breath while reading an email from your boss, a slow, persistent tiredness a full night's sleep cannot fix. For some, the private ending brings surprising physical relief. Headaches subside, the knot unwinds. For others, this ending feels like grief, a loss that settles in your bones. These feelings deserve kindness and compassion. Whether relief or pain, these signals are a sacred language guiding you toward a truth that needs gentle attention. When the private resignation has taken hold, your attention begins to shift in small but significant ways. This is one of the first and most certain tests of its arrival. You start to notice what you notice, conversations that have nothing to do with projects or politics. You talk about books, weekend plans, anything that feels real and alive. You may subtly avoid colleagues whose energy is bound to the world you're leaving. Your investment of energy changes course. You stop signing up for new committees or distant projects. Instead, you pour that precious energy elsewhere. You take a class, cancel hollow plans, make time for what nourishes your spirit. Another test is how you treat yourself. You gently let yourself off the hook. Small acts of self-preservation become tender signals of a new boundary and a precedence of well-being. There is a quiet tension that arises in this season. It lives between your inner knowing and your outer reality. The inner ending asks you to care for yourself, to pull back your energy, to prepare for departure. But the outer world asks you to keep things steady. You still meet deadlines with professionalism. You keep your relationships whole. You can hold both realities with grace. Small, deliberate practices keep you steady. Name the feeling simply. This is ending inside me now. A single private sentence is enough. Let a trusted friend know you're in a different place with work now. Honor your inner world without disrupting your outer one. Section tending of a difficult season. They are not grand gestures, but steady, quiet work that helps you hold your center while you wait for the right time to make your move. These small acts of care honor the transition you are in. They are a promise to yourself that you will see this through with as much grace and self-respect as you can muster. Keep tending, keep breathing. Sometimes the private ending becomes a gentle and unexpected teacher. It arrives not to punish you, but to clarify what truly matters. This quiet season before the public departure asks you to slow down and pay new attention. It casts a soft light on corners of your life you are too busy to notice. It reveals where your energy naturally wants to go when it is not forced into a container that no longer fits. It shows you what you would choose if you were free to choose all over again. It brings relationships into focus. Who you trust with the tender truths of your heart. Who feels safe, where you can be a bit more yourself, and what is purely transactional. There is no single answer for how or when to tell. Any choice made with care is valid. Maintain quality, speak kindly, avoid drama, preserve your energy for the path ahead. This season asks for two things above all: radical honesty with yourself and deep care for others. Listen without judgment to the whispers of your own heart. Name the feelings as they arise: the grief, the relief, the fear, the excitement. Notice the language of your body, the tightness, the lightness. Let the truth live in you without rushing into action. Care for others by doing your work well and honoring commitments. Treat people with kindness and respect. Honesty with yourself and care for others are not opposites. They are two wings of the same bird. We long for neat timelines and fast conclusions, but sometimes the inner ending asks you to hold still, to let it settle in your bones until it is a truth you can stand on. You move by an inner compass now, in quiet alignment. If you are in this season now, this is an invitation for you. Find a moment of quiet. Sit with a small soft light. Think of that line again. Sometimes the real resignation happens in private, long before the letter, the meeting, the plan. Let the words settle around you. Let them be quiet. Let them be true. Notice your pauses. Notice your hands. When it is time, you will speak from a steadier place. You will not be driven by panic, anger, or the latest frustration. You will speak from the long, silent work already done. Your words will be simpler, clearer, truer. Name the threshold, and when you are ready, walk through it with care and courage. You are not alone in this moment, even if it feels that way. So many have held the private end of a story while the world kept reading the old script. Theirs is a quiet chorus across all walks of life. They know the small, precise feelings of this in-between. They know how to keep going with dignity. They know how to be gentle with themselves. So notice, name, care for yourself. Let this private ending ready you for the new beginning that awaits. Have you ever had the moment where you knew inside before anything changed outside?